The world's richest couple's divorce is one step closer to being done.
Jeff Bezos, the world's richest man, finalized the terms of his divorce today, turning MacKenzie Bezos into a billionaire many times over.
Venice this morning, where the star-studded wedding celebration of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and Sánchez continues.
And his wedding costing up to a whopping $55 million.
Why would a woman walk away from one of the richest men on earth, especially when she helped build the empire that made him famous? For years, Jeff and MacKenzie Bezos looked untouchable, a power couple, a love story that started in a quiet cubicle and stretched all the way to space rockets and billions in stock. But behind the headlines, something else was brewing, because what happened between them wasn't just a breakup. It was a slow unraveling, wrapped in silence and rumors that would shake the world. And the full story? It's not what you think. Let's go back to where it all began. In the early 90s, Mackenzie Tuttle had one goal: become a writer. She just graduated from Princeton with an English degree and took a job at a hedge fund in New York to pay the bills. Before she even met Jeff Bezos, she heard him laughing, loud, constant, and oddly contagious. She'd later say his laugh was so distinct, she remembered it long before she ever saw his face. When she finally met him in person, she was curious, then impressed, and not long after, hooked. She asked him to lunch, and 3 months later, they were engaged. 3 more, and they were married. It wasn't some glitzy tech wedding, no headlines, no luxury venue, just 2 people with big ideas and not much money. But what they did next would change everything. Jeff had this idea: an online bookstore. It sounded wild at the time. E-commerce barely existed. There weren't any customers yet, and very few believers. But Jeff had a computer and a dream. So they packed up, left New York, and drove to Seattle. While Jeff typed plans in the passenger seat, Mackenzie drove the entire way. That alone says a lot about their dynamic. She wasn't just there, she was moving the whole thing forward. Once in Seattle, they didn't waste time. Jeff started Amazon from a garage. Mackenzie did the books, helped run logistics, and managed the first shipments. She even negotiated deals with shipping companies. There were no assistants and no PR teams, just the 2 of them, working side by side to build something from scratch. Their partnership was real. She wasn't just a supportive spouse, she was part of the actual startup grind, a strategist, and the person who made sure things didn't fall apart while Jeff chased his next big idea. But even perfect partnerships can crack, and theirs did. Slowly, then suddenly. As Amazon exploded in the late 90s, so did Jeff's schedule. More meetings, more travel, and more attention. He was becoming a business icon. The media called him a genius, a tech visionary, the next Steve Jobs. Mackenzie, she pulled back, focused on raising their 4 kids, and finally had time to write her first novel. At home, she kept the family grounded while Jeff was everywhere else. At first, it seemed normal. Successful companies demand sacrifice, right? But over time, that sacrifice grew into something else. Missed dinners became missed weekends. Work calls replaced real conversations. The more Jeff leaned into the spotlight, the more Mackenzie stepped out of it. Friends began to notice something felt off. Jeff was surrounded by executives, journalists, and startup chaos. Mackenzie, who had been there from day one, now watched from a distance. No longer a partner, just a quiet supporter in the background. Publicly, they still looked strong, but behind closed doors, the gap between them had become more than emotional. It was physical, relentless, and impossible to ignore. But that wasn't the whole story, because soon, whispers would start to surface. Whispers about another woman, one who wasn't Mackenzie, and what happened next would blow up the entire image they worked so hard to protect. For a long time, the distance between Jeff and Mackenzie stayed private, but in 2018, something changed. And soon, the private cracks turned into a very public scandal. It started with whispers, rumors online, and stories in gossip circles. A name kept coming up: Sánchez, a former TV host, a helicopter pilot, and someone reportedly getting a little too close to Jeff Bezos. Reports claim the 2 had started spending time together during a Blue Origin project, Jeff's space company. Some sources even suggested they got close as early as 2017. But there was no official word, no photos, just quiet speculation, until everything exploded. On January 9th, 2019, the National Enquirer published a bombshell report. They claimed to have followed Bezos for 4 months. Not only that, they had private texts, intimate messages, and photos, all allegedly sent to Sánchez while Jeff was still married to Mackenzie. Suddenly, the 3rd richest man in the world was at the center of a tabloid storm. That very same day, Jeff and Mackenzie posted a joint statement on Twitter announcing their divorce. The media frenzy didn't stop there. A few weeks later, Jeff published a post on Medium, accusing the Enquirer's parent company, AMI, of trying to blackmail him with leaked photos. He even included the emails they'd sent as proof. It was the kind of chaos no one expected from the Bezos brand. Clean, polished, private. Now, people were seeing something completely different. Something raw, something messy. While Jeff was dealing with the fallout, MacKenzie stayed silent. She didn't give interviews, didn't post cryptic quotes, didn't say anything at all, but her next move would speak louder than any headline. When the divorce became official later that year, it made history. MacKenzie walked away with 25% of their Amazon stock, worth around $38 billion at the time. That instantly made her one of the richest women in the world. But it wasn't just the money that grabbed attention, it was how she handled it. While Jeff kept building his empire, appearing at galas with Sánchez and returning to the spotlight, MacKenzie chose a different path. She didn't buy islands or launch a luxury brand. She didn't fire back at anyone or drag the story out. Instead, she stayed quiet, graceful, and incredibly calculated. The public watched in real time as she stepped out of Jeff's shadow. No longer the silent partner, no longer just the ex-wife. MacKenzie was starting to build her own identity, one that had nothing to do with Amazon or one of the world's richest men. And soon she made a decision that would redefine her legacy. She decided to give it away. Most people hold on to wealth like their life depends on it, but MacKenzie, she did the opposite. In 2019, she signed the Giving Pledge, promising to donate the majority of her fortune during her lifetime. Bold move. But she didn't stop at promises. She got to work, fast. By the end of 2020, she had already donated over $6 billion to nearly 500 organizations. Quietly, no press tours, no long speeches, just massive checks to groups focused on racial equity, climate action, education, and health. But what made her giving even more unique? She didn't attach strings. The nonprofits were free to use the money however they needed. Salaries, programs, operating costs. That's rare in big philanthropy. In 2024, her team launched the Yield Giving Open Call, an invitation for smaller nonprofits to apply for $1 million each. Over 360 groups received funding. That single move sent $640 million into communities that usually never get noticed. And while critics questioned the long-term strategy, others saw something different. A woman rebuilding her purpose through impact, not revenge. Behind the scenes, her personal life stayed just as private. She remarried in 2021 to a science teacher named Dan Jewett. No fanfare, no red carpet. But by early 2023, the marriage quietly ended. No drama, no details. Even in heartbreak, she kept her focus clear: family, giving, and growth. While Jeff was out sailing the Mediterranean with Lauren on a $500 million yacht, MacKenzie was rewriting the rules of what it means to be powerful, but her story wasn't over yet, because in 2025, both their lives would hit new milestones. Ones that showed just how far they drifted from the garage days of Amazon. By 2025, the contrast between Jeff and MacKenzie couldn't be clearer. Jeff had stepped down as Amazon's CEO back in 2021. He said he wanted to focus on passion projects, mainly Blue Origin, his space company, and his $10 billion Earth Fund for climate solutions. But that wasn't all he had going on. He also stepped into a new public role with Lauren Sánchez by his side, and they weren't keeping things low-key. In June 2025, they hosted one of the most extravagant wedding celebrations in recent memory. A private ceremony in Venice, followed by a week-long party aboard Jeff's 127-meter yacht, Koru. Celebrity guests flew in. Paparazzi surrounded the docks. Photos of Lauren in couture and Jeff in a tux circled the globe within hours. It was flashy, loud, and impossible to miss. MacKenzie, on the other hand, kept her head down. She wasn't photographed at parties. She didn't walk any red carpets. But what she did do was keep giving. She quietly sold off more of her Amazon shares, millions of dollars at a time, and funneled them into her foundation. Grants continued to flow to schools, women's shelters, tribal colleges, and nonprofits with shoestring budgets, but big visions. And through it all, she stayed completely off social media. No interviews, no comment sections, just impact. That silence made people even more curious. Would she ever write about what really happened? Would her children, now young adults, ever speak out? So far, no one has. Even now, the question remains: how did two people who built something world-changing end up in completely different orbits? Their story didn't end with a scandal. It ended with two legacies heading in opposite directions. Jeff and MacKenzie's story isn't just about betrayal or billions. It's about something bigger, something more human. It's about how even the most successful people can lose what matters most, how building an empire doesn't always mean building a life, and how sometimes walking away quietly quietly is more powerful than making noise. So now the question turns to us. What matters more? What you build for the world, or what you rebuild for yourself when everything falls apart?
The early spark was still there somewhere, but buried under years of stress, schedule conflicts, and the weight of running a multi-billion-dollar business. Looking back, it is easy to see the signs. The long workday and the growing silence between two people who once dreamed so loudly together. So what finally broke the bond? What was the moment that made MacKenzie step away from it all? That part of the story is still coming, and it may be more shocking than anyone expected. Stay tuned. By now, things were no longer just quietly drifting apart. The distance between MacKenzie and Jeff had grown into something no one could ignore. Still, from the outside, everything seemed normal. They rarely spoke about their marriage in public, and when they appeared together, they looked calm, polished, even supportive. The world still saw them as a power couple, strong, wealthy, and united. Behind closed doors, the story was different. What had started as small gaps had grown into a real divide. It was not just the late nights or the endless meetings. There was something deeper going on, a shift in how they connected. MacKenzie remained the primary presence at home, raising their 4 children and pursuing her passion for writing. Gradually, something within her began to change. She was growing quieter and more guarded. Friends close to her started to notice the difference. Jeff, on the other hand, was more focused than ever on his growing empire. Amazon was no longer just an online bookstore. It was becoming one of the biggest companies in the world. At the same time, Jeff had launched his space company, Blue Origin, and was diving into new ventures. He was always thinking about the future, business, technology, space, but not necessarily family. There was less and less time for real connection. People close to them began to sense a change. Insiders noticed a cooling in their relationship. The once warm energy between them had faded. There were fewer shared smiles and fewer moments that felt truly personal. MacKenzie seemed to be holding something in, something she could not say out loud just yet. She had always supported Jeff through the hard days, the startup chaos, and the global rise of Amazon. She was always there for him, but now, she felt like she was no longer part of his world. He was surrounded by executives, press, and business plans, while MacKenzie was left alone to dwell in the silence he had created. Nonetheless, she held on. She hoped things might turn around. With time, they could reconnect. Maybe this was just another rough patch. After all, they had built so much together, a family, a company, a future. She wanted to believe that it could still work. Deep down, she knew that something had shifted. This was no longer about the company or a busy schedule. This was about something broken between them, something that could not be fixed with time or effort alone. MacKenzie was beginning to feel that the man she had married was not the same man standing beside her now. The worst part was that the reason for it all had not yet been revealed. At this point, there were rumors, several whispers in media circles, and hints in gossip columns. Stories that discussed tension in their marriage, but they could not confirm the reason for the tension, and nothing concrete ever came to light. No one dared to speak out about what was happening because they did not have the whole truth. A wrong choice of words could easily land them in a legal battle with one of the world's richest and most powerful couples. Only MacKenzie knew the full truth, and she was carrying it silently. It was a heavy truth, one that she knew would change everything if it were ever to become public. This was not just about drifting apart or growing differences. It was something more personal, something more painful, and something that would change everything she thought she knew about her husband. She had not told anyone yet, but she had begun to prepare herself for what was coming. Quietly, she started making plans. Not for divorce, not yet, but for the life she might need to build on her own. She was no longer just holding on. She was starting to let go in small, quiet steps. The public still thought everything was fine. They had no idea what was happening. MacKenzie knew that the turning point had come. The damage was done, and now it was only a matter of time before the rest of the world would find out about the truth she was holding in. It was going to come out. When it did, everything would change. Exposed at last. Now, at 55 years old, MacKenzie Scott finally told us her side of the story in her own words. She told her story in her books and in interviews about how the divorce affected her, and also about the fact that Jeff was unfaithful to her during the marriage, and the news shocked the entire world. By January 2019, the huge secret that Jeff Bezos, the man behind Amazon, was having an affair was no longer a secret, and it was a story that dominated the internet, the news, and dinner table conversations worldwide. Not because cheating was rare, but because it was Jeff Bezos himself, one of the wealthiest men alive. The man people watched build a company from nothing. A man with a supportive wife who built it all from scratch with him. 4 children, and a life that had always seemed so solid. The shock wasn't just about the affair. It was about what people thought they knew. For over 25 years, Jeff had been married to MacKenzie Scott. She was his partner from the very beginning. When Amazon was just an idea, MacKenzie was there, driving Jeff to meetings, handling the family's early finances, and raising their kids. They seemed like a real team, one of those rare couples who survive massive success without falling apart. So when people found out Jeff had been involved with another woman, Sánchez, a TV personality and pilot, it didn't feel like just another celebrity scandal. It felt like something more personal, like the breaking of a story that so many had quietly admired. It did not take long for the world to react. In the United States, headlines exploded. Talk shows picked it up instantly. News channels that usually focused on politics or business started running segments on Bezos' private life. Late-night hosts cracked jokes about his leaked text messages. On social media, people could not stop talking about it. Some were angry, some were confused, and others were just curious. Some, especially women, voiced their support for MacKenzie. They felt she had stood by Jeff through everything, through the risk, the stress, the years of building, and now she was left to deal with heartbreak in front of the whole world. Outside the United States, the story was just as loud. In the United Kingdom, news outlets focused on the financial angle. How much would the divorce cost? Would MacKenzie become one of the wealthiest women in the world? In places like Brazil, India, and South Africa, the focus was more on the family aspect. Who was MacKenzie? How many kids did they have? What was going to happen to the children? That question came up a lot. What about the kids? Jeff and MacKenzie had always kept their children out of the public eye. They had 4 kids together, including one adopted daughter from China. No one knew their names. No one knew what they looked like. There were no red carpet photos, no interviews, and no social media posts featuring their faces. And when the scandal broke, that silence continued. It's probably one of the only things Jeff and MacKenzie agreed on fully during the storm, to protect the kids. However, people could not help but wonder, how does a family go through something so personal that's now in the public eye and still stay standing? Family friends who spoke to the media said MacKenzie focused right away on keeping things calm. She reportedly stayed brave, holding the family together while the world watched from the outside. The divorce? It was huge. Financially, it was one of the biggest in history. MacKenzie walked away with nearly $38 billion. That number alone made headlines around the globe. Something even bigger came next. What she did with the money. MacKenzie didn't run to a private island or buy luxury yachts. Instead, she started giving her wealth away, quietly, thoughtfully, and over time, she donated billions to charities, educational institutions, racial justice organizations, and women's shelters. People noticed that she was not trying to compete or seek revenge. She was building something new, something with purpose. To many, MacKenzie became the unexpected hero of the story. While Jeff's name was tied to power and money, hers became tied to kindness and giving. As for Jeff, he stepped out of the shadows too. Slowly, he and Lauren Sánchez began attending public events together. They attended galas, dinners, and red carpets. She stood by his side, smiling for the cameras. For some people, it felt too soon. For others, it was just life moving on. No matter where the public opinion landed, one thing never changed. The kids stayed out of it, protected, and safe from the prying eyes of the public. Some parenting experts praised that decision. In a world where children of celebrities are often pushed into the spotlight, Jeff and MacKenzie's choice to shield their children was seen as responsible and loving. No matter how messy things were between them, they maintained strong family boundaries. From time to time, people would ask again, how were the kids doing? Were they angry? Were they sad? But the truth is, we still don't know. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they deserve to have their story told only if they choose to tell it someday. Over time, the media storm began to quiet down. Other stories came, other scandals, other billionaires. Yet, the Bezos affair remained one of those moments that stayed with people, not because it was the most shocking, but because it felt so real. It reminded people that even the most successful families can fall apart. Even the man who launched rockets into space could not control love, trust, or human emotion. It made people ask themselves, what really matters in the end? Is it a success? Is it building a business empire? Or is it holding on to the people who knew you before you had anything? Jeff and MacKenzie's story showed both sides of a powerful life. One side was about ambition and big dreams. The other was about loss, change, and learning to start over. Jeff has stepped down as CEO of Amazon and now focuses more on space travel and philanthropy. Lauren, who has children of her own, also works in media and runs her businesses. MacKenzie, meanwhile, has kept her distance from the spotlight, helping others and using her money to make a difference. Who to blame for the divorce is one of the most controversial debates. Is it Jeff, who was unfaithful to a wife who stood by him before wealth and fame? Or Lauren, who had an affair with him even after knowing that he was married? The truth is that both are to be held accountable for their mistakes. Even though the whole scandal occurred several years ago, the public will never forget. And that is one disadvantage of fame. Everything you do will never truly be forgotten. The children still stay out of public life. They are likely teenagers or young adults now, living with the quiet reality that their father is one of the most famous men in the world, and their mother is one of the most generous. Their story is still being written, and maybe that's what makes it feel so human. No one gets a perfect ending. Life is complicated. Families can get messy, mistakes are made, and hearts are broken. But people keep going. They grow, change, and try to do better. So, when the world reacted to Jeff Bezos' scandal, it wasn't just about gossip or drama. It was about all of us, watching a powerful man face consequences, watching a quiet woman rise with dignity, and wondering what we would do in their shoes. In the end, what mattered most wasn't the money or the headlines. It was the people who were involved and affected by it. The children and MacKenzie. The public condemns the mistakes of the father who, in their eyes, failed his family. However, they hope that somehow, through it all, the family remained a family, even if it now looks different. Moving on. After the devastating betrayal and the end of her marriage, MacKenzie Scott faced a crossroads. She could let her heartache define her, or she could reshape her life and purpose. That's exactly what she chose to do. When MacKenzie finalized her divorce from Jeff Bezos in 2019, it marked the end of a 25 years of partnership. The settlement gave her roughly $35.6 billion in Amazon stock, a record-breaking split that instantly made her one of the richest women in the world. Remarkably, she surprised many by stating that money wasn't her goal. It was independence and personal peace. Early on, she signed the Giving Pledge, promising to donate most of her wealth during her lifetime. But she didn't just talk about giving. She acted in bold ways that redefined generosity. Within months, MacKenzie began giving away billions, not in flashy attention-grabbing grants, but quietly, and strategically. In July 2020, she revealed that she had donated $1.7 billion to 116 nonprofits, supporting causes such as racial justice, LGBTQ+ rights, democracy, and climate action. Then, by the end of that year, she gave another $4.1 billion to 384 organizations, many serving communities hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. By mid-2021, she had donated $2.7 billion to 286 groups, including a major $40 million challenge grant for gender equity in partnership with Melinda French Gates. She also continued giving to historically Black colleges and universities, tribal colleges, and Hispanic serving institutions, pushing over $800 million just in higher education. What stood out wasn't only what she gave, but how she gave it. MacKenzie focused on unrestricted grants, meaning nonprofits could decide how to use the funds, including basics such as salaries and overhead, without strings attached. In March 2024, she launched a unique open call through her team at Yield Giving. Groups with annual budgets between $1 million and $5 million could apply for $1 million grants. She ended up donating $640 million to 361 small nonprofits, a move that more than doubled her initial plan. Early results show real impact. A report from the Center for Effective Philanthropy praised her model, noting how it improved financial health, culture, and scale among the nonprofits she supported. She wasn't just writing checks, she was helping organizations transform. For years, MacKenzie was known primarily as Jeff Bezos' wife, a supportive partner who stood in the background. Her writing, voice, and contributions were overshadowed. Now, her giving rewrote the narrative. By acting quickly, silently, and thoughtfully, she began to define herself on her own terms. She rekindled her passion for writing, publishing thoughtful essays and books that allowed her to reflect on her experiences. Her words revealed a reflective and powerful voice that few had seen before. Away from public headlines, MacKenzie shifted to a quieter life. She focused on her 4 children, deep friendships, and personal growth. Reports described her embracing simplicity and living a more private life, away from the relentless pace she and Jeff once led. She remarried in 2022, tying the knot with high school science teacher Dan Jewett. Though their marriage ended in early 2023, her focus remained centered on family and impact. MacKenzie's journey inspired deeper conversations. Her story prompted people to ask, what does wealth truly accomplish? How do personal values shape giving? And what comes after betrayal? She showed that life after pain doesn't need to be defined by bitterness. Instead, it can become an opportunity to rebuild identity and contribute in meaningful ways.